So far, all the sentences that we have translated in Latin have been in the third person. But what do I mean, the third person? By third person, I mean that your subject is either a name of someone or like the phrase he, she, or it. But today we're going to learn what happens when you have a different subject, if your subject is I or you. So let's go ahead and take a look at these third person sentences that we've had. We had puella in culina intrat. I look at my verb and I see intrat ends with a T. Well, let's go to the second one. Grumio caecilium salutat. I see that salutat's my verb and my ending is a T. It is a hard and fast rule that any verb in the third person is going to end with the letter T. So even if the subject is not given, we know that the subject is going to be a he, a she, or an it. But let's talk about if I wanted to say the word I. So if the girl enters the kitchen, that's fine, but what if I want to enter the kitchen? I would say ego, which is the word for I, in culina, into the kitchen, intro. You'll notice that my verb now has an O at the end. This O means that my subject is always I, even if I don't say it. I could get rid of the word ego and just have the sentence in culina intro. Because my verb ends with an O, I know my subject is an understood I. What if I wanted to say you are entering the kitchen? Tu in culina intras. My verb ending for a you is an S. Again, just like before, if I got rid of the word to, it still says the same thing. This S lets me know that my subject is you, so you enter into the kitchen. If you have taken any sort of foreign language before, you might have seen a chart like this. It's called a conjugation chart. So let's just talk about what this chart actually is. So first person is just a fancy way of saying that your subject is an understood I. Second person is a fancy way of saying you. And third is a fancy way of saying he, she, or it. Just like we talked about, subject and nominative are the same thing. First person and I are the same thing. So if I want to talk about myself, my verb is always going to end with an O. And my understood subject is if my verb ends with an O, my subject is going to be I. For the second person, the ending is an S. So if my verb ends with an S, my subject is an understood you. And if my verb ends with a T, I know that my subject is going to be an understood he, she, or it. So let's look at my sentence, amicum saluto. This sentence has a lot of moving parts. So my verb here is saluto, and I see this O here, which means I know from this chart up here that when I see an O, my subject is an understood I. Even if it's not stated, I understand that that's what it means. So to help myself out, I'm going to write a little I over here, or you could write it in English as I. Now, when I look at the word amicum, I see that this is a direct object or an accusative. So when I translate it, it's going to happen after my verb. So if I were to translate my verb by itself, saluto is I greet, and then what am I greeting? My friend. It's important that we actually follow this pattern because otherwise we can find ourselves getting lost saying, my friend is greeting. But we can see that that's actually not the case, which is why it's important that we notice that our direct object will always come after the verb and that my verb will tell me what my subject is.